Hello, hello, hello. How are you? Wow, look at this packed house. I love it. Man, welcome back to Texas Frightmare Weekend. Who knew, right? It actually happened. Who was worried that it was like maybe on the fence, right? Right? But we're here, we're alive, we're well, and man, do we have a special treat for you now. Obviously, it goes without saying you love Terrifier. But, oh, I see the photo op over there. How many of you guys did the photo op in the comment? Oh my goodness, face to face. Now, I don't know if you guys saw it, but we're actually going to get to see a few minutes of Terrifier. But first, let's show them how we do it in Dallas, Texas. Let's give a big Texas round of applause for Damien and David. Come on! All right.
Look at all these beautiful people.
Hi. Goodness. Well, we are so excited to have you guys here, not only because we get a little sneak preview, but just this movie kind of came out of nowhere. And how many times, when you guys first saw this movie, did your jaw just drop like, oh my God? Right? And so now, we're all so curious. How are you gonna top this one? And I know you're gonna do it. So, and I know people are wanting to know as much as they can know. But what can we know about part 2 without spoiling it?
Synchronized swimming.
Oh, a swimming clown. God, that's terrifying. All right.
It ruins the makeup.
Thing of nightmares.
I say it's like part 1 on steroids and acid. I mean, it's everything you loved about part 1, but we really expanded upon the mythology, the protagonist in this one. It's a much bigger story, just a bigger scale. Maybe learn a little bit more about Art the Clown.
Well, I mean, this must have been such a treat for you guys because this is a labor of love when you made it, and to have the audience that it's found must have just been the most wonderful thing because it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, it really does, man. It's surreal. It really is. Every time, I mean, people come up to us with tattoos, and it's custom artwork that you guys make, and it's the most beautiful, rewarding thing ever. Because again, I've been watching horror movies since I'm a kid, since I'm 3 years old, obsessed. You know, and every time, especially when I see like a little kid come up to the table or something, it's me. You know, when my mother used to take me here to chill her when I was like 12 years old, 11. You know, so just to come sort of full circle, it's really the most amazing thing. I mean, I couldn't be more grateful.
It's mind-boggling.
Thank you. How many of you guys have been to Chiller Theater, by the way?
Yes!
Yeah, there we go. The mighty Chiller Theater in the swamps of New Jersey. All the sights, sounds, and definitely smells. But it's so much fun, and now you guys get to go around and just get loved on all weekend. How fun is that?
It's awesome.
It's the best job in the world.
It really is. It's like after waiting tables for 13 years and people chewing you out because they didn't get enough ranch on the side. Tip your waiters. Especially after this mess last year, your service industry people deserve a lot of love because boy, they've been they've been there every single day.
Now I saw a big show of hands earlier when I was asking how many people got the art photo op, and do you guys know what went into it? It takes a couple hours to do this, right?
A few.
Yeah, it takes about 2 hours to get into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten it down. I could do it in 2 now, but sometimes it takes like close to 3, especially when we're filming.
Yeah.
Because typically I have to go and set up shots while we film other things, and I have to just keep running back and forth and setting up lights and this and that. So, yeah, it's tedious, but
Yeah, I love it. Well, I know you guys have a lot of great questions, And I love the questions from the audience because they're just so thoughtful, insightful, and things that I would never think of. So, who's going to be the brave first? Oh my goodness! All right, let's see. Right up front here.
Was it was it a conscious decision to make art completely silent?
Oh, was it a conscious decision to make art completely silent? I'll repeat the question for you guys in the back so you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all the slashers growing up. Especially I do love Freddy, just as much as the others. But there was something about the silent killer that I gravitated more toward when I was a kid. I think it's just something when you take away, the ability to speak. It just makes them a little more animal, and you can't rationalize. It just takes away that humanity. It makes them just a little creepier to me. So that and just not having to write dialogue is just one more thing.
I don't have to memorize lines. That's wonderful.
You didn't need to, Dan. You were spot on.
Thank you.
And the way he emotes, which is the best, that you know everything he's saying without saying it. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah. And when he looks at you and he's not happy with something, this is going to be a little creepy, right? How about with the Freddy Claw? By the way, that's a New Jersey thumbs up for the. I'm from Philly, so I know this. All right, with the Freddy Claw, what would you like to know?
What was your favorite kill of the entire movie?
The favorite kill of the entire movie.
Can you tell the time?
I think most people expect to see the hacksaw scene.
Are you not going to say?
I'm not going to say that. I love the decapitation of the exterminator because it's a really good decapitation. First of all, I dream like a peasant speech, so I'm like, yes. But it's also, there's a fun story with him because the actor that plays him, Mike Levy, is also the guy kind of responsible for the whole scary clown movement that started back in like 2014. He was before Rank was a clown. He and his brother and their friend Steve, Buzz and Linz, they started this whole thing where they were the Staten Island clown, and they would stand out around Staten Island dressed in a clown costume. Wow. So I kind of like the idea that I scared the guy, not scared the guy, I scared him too, but I killed the guy that started that whole scary clown craze. So,
the hacksaw scene.
Aren't you guys glad there's not a Texas clown just standing around just creeping us out? We carry guns here. All right, go ahead.
Plus you get Catherine naked, but sorry, I had to. I was gonna say was like you're talking about how Freddy was an inspiration, but also you're talking about like how art doesn't speak, but also you're talking about how this is gonna be different. Maybe you'll have art's backstory. Something like Peeping Tom, like you see from the killer's POV, but also that's also like a silent element to the killer. You don't really, you see from the POV, but it sort of speaks through the POV. So are we gonna see are you able to tell us if we're gonna see his story through his POV in addition to the other characters discovering stuff, or you're not able to? I know it's.
Are we gonna see it?
Is it not so clear,
Right.
simple an answer?
Yeah. No, actually it's more about the two main characters, the brother and sister in part 2, discovering bits and pieces and clues about what or who he is.
The jigsaw pieces.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the mystery is just unraveling as the movie goes on. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, sir.
I love the Terrifier movie and All Hallows Eve, and I just had a question about Art the Clown. It seems like he absolutely loves killing like everybody.
Oh yeah.
But it also seems like one of his goals is to like break victims down, like to the point where they're as demented as he is.
Oh yeah.
Which he does by the end of Terrifier.
Right. Yeah, I mean, my whole thing with Art was about the foreplay that he enjoys more than just finishing the people off. Because he enjoys killing, whereas like the other slashers don't necessarily enjoy it. It's like the knife comes up, it goes down, it's over. It's just like that suspense, and then the kill comes and goes. Like with me, I knew, and plus since I do the special effects and we were so low budget, I'm like, what can we do to rival some Hollywood movies that they might not do? And it's like I could really show some really gnarly graphic effects that you're not going to see in a typical Hollywood horror movie. So let's make that a big part of what Art is and what he does. So let's really drag out these kill scenes and make them be big set pieces instead of just something that comes and goes, where you're just waiting. It's like an event when the kill happens. So, but yeah, it's about the foreplay. He loves the.
He likes to play with his food.
Ooh. All right, let's go to this side over here.
I just wondering, how did this film, if you guys have seen it, you know what I'm talking about, pass with the MPAA?
That's a good question. Easy, because it was never presented to them.
Oh my gosh, this thing's gonna be brutal. All right, go ahead, right back there. Yes.
Yeah, so I just had a question. So was the grittiness and like the underground feel of the movie like intentional, and then are you going to keep that in the second one?
Yeah,
it is intentional.
Oh yeah, definitely intentional to give it that
Are you
sort
doing that
of.
in the second one?
We're gonna do it, but not as extreme. I want it to be a little more polished, but I still want it to have that retro vibe. Yeah, there's something about movies today that they're too clean. There's something cut off. I don't know. I don't really like relate to them. There's a reality that's missing. That.
Yeah, I like the grittiness of it. So.
Yeah, same. So I'm trying to capture that. I mean, if I could shoot this movie on, like Super 16 or something like that on film, I would. If I had the budget. So we still have to manipulate the digital footage, unfortunately. But
Part 3.
yeah.
All right, right here.
Hey guys, so we have movies like Freddy vs. Jason, Alien vs. Predator. If you guys could pick art versus someone, who would you want to take on?
Art versus someone.
I was actually going to say that. Yeah, because those of you who know, like Billy and I had a little rivalry with each other all the time. We're always just bragging on each other. I think that would be fun. Plus, I just love popcorn. I think he's a very underrated character so far. Honestly, people even know about popcorn. They're both so demented, so that'll be an interesting mashup there.
I think, even though Freddy's already fought Jason, I think Art versus Freddy, because Freddy has the best personality and sense of humor, and the two of them going back and forth with that sense of humor.
Free side.
Robert Englund is a favorite guest of Frightmare here. He's always.
There's only one Freddy.
All right, right up here.
So how long did it take to shoot, and what were some of the complications in regards to working with such a small budget?
How long did it take to shoot the complications?
So you're talking about the first Terrifier?
Yes.
Yeah. Second Terrifier, I think we're still filming it. Believe it or not, I think we filmed it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe like 2 months, a little over a month. But I think we took a break. We showed the movie at in Colorado. It was almost like our test screening, and we went back after I got like the feedback, and I saw it. And I knew we were missing a couple of things we needed to go. So we went back and we actually filmed the exterminator kill that he loves, and I think we changed the intro and the outro.
Yeah,
right?
we also
the wraparound.
the corner scene too. That was
Right. That was another thing, because originally I always knew I was going to bring Art back, but we didn't show him waking up in the morgue at the end. And I was like, even though it's like cliche and it's been done, I was like, I want the audience to know for a fact that he's coming back and he's going to be a part 2. So I was like, we should leave that cliffhanger in there. And it wasn't that hard to shoot. It was what it really was the environment was so dingy and disgusting. That building that we shot in, it was always in the winter. No heat, no running water. Shooting a horror movie with no running water is a nightmare.
It's really where COVID developed, I think.
So yeah, we just had buckets of cold water off to the side that we would wash my hands in and everything like that.
I had to
porta
like
potty
bathe
outside.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially after my Buffalo Bill scene, because I was covered in all the blood. And I had basically a horse bath. And all
Talk
that.
about, this is funny. Talk about the Buffalo Bill scene for a second.
Oh my God.
This is just a good story.
Oh, this is a fun story.
This is the most awkward day of shooting in my life.
Yeah. Because originally it wasn't even written that I was going to be doing that. I was just going to wear the body power soak, the costume, and he's like, Dave, it was like 2 days before we filmed, he's like, Dave, I got a crazy idea. You might not like it. I'm like, okay. So how do you feel about doing that nude? I'm like, who wants to see me nude? Sorry. No, I'm like, but that would be freaky, and Catherine's really had to, expose herself in a very vulnerable manner for a very classic scene now. And I'm like, if Catherine can do what she's doing, I'll do it. So yeah, let's do this. This would be awesome. This is for the, the film. So yeah, let's do it. So he calls me up the morning before we film. He's like, Dave, sorry for the kids in the room, but he called me up and he's like, bring a cock sock with you. Like, a condom? He's like, no, just bring a sock with you to cover up your. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I didn't think about it. So I show up and I come up and I put on, and most people don't realize too, I didn't just wear her ha-has and the scalp, I was also wearing her vajayjay too. And so I come out wearing my new vajayjay, as you do, American. And they just noticed this big white tube sock, ladies. And he's like, oh no, dude, no, you should have brought a black one. I'm like, racist. And I realized, oh no, he's right. This is gonna totally show up on camera. So that's like one of the few times in the movie where there's actually CG because he had to edit that out. And I'm like, oh, and that was also my first night really working with Samantha Scafidi, who played Victoria in the film. So that was her real introduction to me. And I'm like, hi, and these are my boobs. And I was like, this is a great way of gauging her. And she's like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have fun. And I was like making jokes the whole entire night, just like singing songs about butts every time I had to go back down. Because I was trying to do anything just to keep everybody's mind off of looking at my naked tush the whole entire night. So, Parma, baby got back, all that. It was a crazy night on set. We all learned a lot about each other.
I love that.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
I was just curious where you guys shot it, and then how long it took for the first and second one. And if it was easier on the second one or more difficult with the higher budget or what?
Where you shot it, and the second one, the budget.
Yeah. So the first one we shot in Trenton, New Jersey. The second one we shot all over the place, primarily upstate New York, some Manhattan, Staten Island, New Jersey. A lot of different locations in part 2 as opposed to part 1. It's just in primarily the warehouse.
Was it less or more difficult with the higher budget for the second one, or did you have a higher budget for the second one due to the to the donations?
Higher budget, big time. I don't know. Jesus.
Tell what the budget was on the first one?
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah. So there's a misconception, and I can't even change it. I tried to change it online, like on IMDb and like Google when you pull it up. It says that it costs $100,000. I don't know who put that in there, but it absolutely did not. It cost $35,000. That's what we jumped in to start shooting it. And then by the time it was all said and done, it was about $50,000, which is
Show of hands here. How many of you guys are actors, directors, producers, writers?
I want to be.
You want to be. And this is where you can learn a lot from these guys. So I want to know, for these guys out here that want to get into this, it's not easy to do, but you've shown that you can do it for a crazy budget. What advice would you give to people that want to get into this crazy world?
Yeah, you have to just do it no matter what. And especially like me growing up, is I hate relying on other people. So I taught myself how to do almost everything. So, the special effects, that's a huge part of how we were able to keep the budget so low, because God knows, all the effects in Terrifier, if you had to hire a company, they probably charge you like $250,000 to do all those effects, probably on the low end, So I edited it, I did that, direct, I do the sound design, all that, all that stuff, and I don't pay myself a nickel. Hopefully I can make money on the back end, So you just do things like that, but if you really want to be a filmmaker, you're not going to question it. You're just going to do it. I think the minute you have to stop and say, "Is this for me?" It's probably not for you. You have to be. I say it all the time. You have to be willing to just die starving on the street. Struggling artist. You can't help but make a movie. So that's it. Just get off your rope and do it.
I completely agree. Just like Damien, I'm self-taught. I never went to school for theater. I actually got a degree in elementary education. I used to teach your kids. But I learned from just doing theater. I learned from watching my betters, and just both in film and also stage. I think the best experience is actually just the experience of doing it, and that's how I learned. And I learned a lot just on set, because this was my first film too. I've done some extra work, but that's it. So I learned a lot on set, just on the job. So it was on-job training. But I would say, as Damien says as well, is just persistence is key. I struggled for like 13 years in New York City doing this, waiting tables and just doing odd jobs. And I started off doing small little off Broadway shows. I actually, oddly enough, funny story, Lady Gaga, before she was Lady Gaga, opened for an off Broadway musical that I was doing. So that was incredible, back in 2007. So you just never know. It's like with her, it was persistence too, and you just have to be in the right place at the right time. You get a million no's, but it just takes that one yes to change everything. And when you're in this field, you're competing against people that are just equally as talented as you, and if not more talented. So if you get rejected, don't take it personally. That's just how it goes. You have to learn how to just roll the rejection off your shoulders and keep going and keep persisting. And you never know. Like with Terrifier, I had just gotten off my last tour with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, which I was here in 2010 with that. And I decided to just take 4 months off of my life just to focus on get an extra life. I took 4 months off of my life just to focus on auditioning, and I had been out for about 4 or 5 different Broadway musicals and tours, and they all fell through for one reason or another, and I was getting disheartened. And all of a sudden, this audition came by one day, looking on this Actors Access website, and looking for a tall, skinny guy who had physical comedy or clowning experience to play Art the Clown, and I'm like, I think that would be great for me. And I submitted, and everything changed.
Let's take a question from the back. Go right ahead on the end. Yes.
What is it like for an audition for a silent role?
It was interesting because I'm not used to that. I'm used to going in, and my agents usually give me sides before I go in. I usually have to memorize all that, and I didn't get any, so I showed up in the room. I was like, sometimes they just want you to do a cold reading, which means you just read it as is right there on the spot. And I go in there and I see all these other actors have scripts in their hands in the room. I'm like, oh no. And I go to the desk and like, oh, sorry, you should have gotten your script. I'm like, oh no, because this was my first feature film, audition. I'm like, oh, I'm perfect for this. And I go, oh, no. And they call me into the room, and I'm like, I am so sorry, I never got a script. Can I just get one, and I can take a few minutes to look over it, and I'll be ready for you guys. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, don't worry about it. You don't have to have a script. Art doesn't talk. I'm like, great. So what would I do? And they're like, oh, just come up with a scene where you decapitate a guy and you're happy about doing it. Cool. Can I have a few minutes? No, just go ahead and just do it right now. And this is why I think it's important for every actor to somehow get some kind of experience with improvisation, because you never know when you get thrown into a moment like this. And I just went with my gut. I just turned off my brain and let whatever happen happen. And you can see this audition online. And I'll kind of summarize how it went. I just snuck up behind my victim, knocked him out, took out a hacksaw, sawed off his head, picked it up, bathed in the blood a little bit, tasted, didn't like the taste, so I take out a salt shaker and season it. Give it a thumbs up. Then I kind of just skip out on my merry little way. That was my audition.
Did you film it? Yeah. It was just me and my producer filming it, and that's what I was looking for. That's why, not that he speaks, but it's like I know what I'm looking for. Like the first actor to play, most of you obviously know that Dave's not the first actor to play. But the first Art the Clown was my buddy Mike Gianelli, who's not an actor. And back in the day when I was just getting into special effects, I would just grab my friends and be like, oh, I want to, shoot you in the head on the side of my house and test this effect. And I just grab them and I want to try put this prosthetic on you. So when I was making that first short film with Art the Clown, I said, look, dude, I need someone to play this clown. He doesn't speak. All you gotta do is just sit there and smile, kind of just like move your head every once in a while. I'm like, it's easy, you can do it, it's fun, And then he did it, and he did a good job. He was creepy, So I just knew when I was recasting it, I said I wanted someone now who's taller and skinnier, because now I'm actually going out of my way to find the person that I want. So I wanted someone taller, skinnier, and with a nice smile. And as soon as Dave came in the room, I'm like, okay, this is a good start. Because I feel like I could direct you most of the way there if you look the part, and the makeup does a lot. But then when I said, I gave him the direction, very little, that's what it's like to be directed by me, just chop someone's head off happily. And he just flipped this switch, and immediately, you just know, there's just like a magic that happens. It's like a lightning bolt type thing, and I'm watching him do it, and I'm just like nudging my producer, and we're both laughing, getting a kick out of it, and then he just goes right back to being Dave. He's like, oh, whatever, how's that? And I was like, and that was it. I saw like 2 other people, and I'm like, this is the guy. I'm like, we're gonna call him back in. Let's throw the prosthetic on him and have him do this again. And that was it. It was like the coolest thing.
Yeah, my final audition was when they threw the makeup on me. They had called the pizza guy, and he shows up at the door like, Dave, this is your final bit. Answer the door. And I just like open the door and and stare at the guy. He's like, nope.
That's so good. Hey, you guys want to see something really cool?
Oh boy.
How about a few minutes in the new Terrifier? Alright, let's get out of the way. Let's check this out.
Can I ask that you please don't film it?
Who's excited now? Wow. Okay, so the big question, when are we going to get to see the horror?
Right now it's looking like around February. It'll be here soon.
Like at the movies or Netflix or?
We don't have a distribution deal set in place, but I'm sure it's going to come to streaming. It's got. We have people who are interested in it, so it's not like nobody wants to put it out. It's just that it's not ready. We're still editing it. There's just so much work going into it. In case you don't know, all right, the first movie was like 80 minutes long, and this one right now is clocking in at 2 hours. Yeah. There's a lot going on in this. This is like an epic indie horror movie.
We need a blooper reel. A blooper reel.
We all love Shudder, don't we? Yeah. That's so cool. All right, right in the front row.
I've been watching horror movies since the late 70s, and this was, your guys' part 1 was the first movie in a long time where I was watching it was like, holy
yes, sir.
A lot of movies nowadays, it just doesn't, you leave it and it's done. That one stuck with me for a while. Very impressive. But I have a question for Dave. If you could play any other character other than Art, what do you think you'd want to play?
If you could play any other character other than Art, who would you play?
There is a certain character that will put a big smile on my face.
Someone's got to do it right for once, damn it.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool? Let's see. Actually, let's go to the back. Sorry, we can only see so far. Okay, right there.
So from a writing standpoint, what was it like, and how did you kind of do the script and the characterization of the kills? Where did you get the inspiration for all that? And how did you lay it all out for this movie? And I guess the second one too, because that was awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, in particular, talking about the first one, like the hacksaw scene. So I knew I needed to put a big kill in this movie that would separate us from everybody else. And I'm like, what else is there to do? There's countless horror movies, slashers, where they kill 15 people per movie. It's like, what is left to possibly do? Plus, it's not like Art the Clown is Jigsaw. We can't get too creative with these kills. He's pretty classic with the way he kills, but I want to just do them in refreshing ways, you know? So, well, regardless, so I started looking up, you know, investigating medieval torture methods, and that hacksaw scene, to a degree, was one of them. And I was like, holy shit, I've seen a lot of movies, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, I'm like, if we could pull that off, that would be pretty amazing, and people are gonna remember that. But not only the idea, but let's actually show every piece of it, the things that you wouldn't, again, like we were saying before, we're talking about Hollywood horror movies, specific shots that you would not see in a Hollywood movie, like the hacksaw going through like the ass crack, kind of like that shit.
I call it the up at the crack of dawn scene.
So that's it. I mean, it's like, how are you going to take things that are sort of cliche, but then make that we all love, but then, you know, make them fresh? I mean, that's what I'm always trying to challenge myself to do.
And second Sienna?
Can you speak on the character of Sienna a little bit?
Character of
Oh
Sienna.
my God, you know, she's honestly my favorite character that I've ever written. You know, I mean, we said it already that she's our final girl in this one. And believe it or not, because people associate me with horror and villains, I love heroes, and I especially love heroines. Like, I grew up, since I'm 3 years old, watching Red Sonja, and just obviously, if you see the teaser, you see what Sienna looks like at the end of the movie. She's like in this Valkyrie armor. And, you know, Sigourney Weaver from Aliens might be my favorite hero of all time, male or female. She's the greatest character. So I always wanted to write a really strong female hero. I mean, in part one, we're really about just setting up Art the Clown, so that's really what it was. It was his showcase. But now, this is almost as much a showcase for our protagonist as it is for Art. So I can't tell you too much about her, but it really focuses on her and her brother. It's 1 year after the first movie, and they live in the same town where the murders took place. Now, everybody knows of Art the Clown. They don't know who he is. I mean, he's infamous and he's missing. They don't know if he's dead or what, if he's going to come back. And her brother in particular is obsessed with Art the Clown. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the two of them, they just, you know, especially the brother's doing all this investigating, trying to figure out who Art the Clown is, and, you know, at the same time, Sienna's building this. She's a cosplayer, and she's building this Valkyrie armor. It has this sentimental meaning to her that I can't tell you about. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool. Yeah, you're gonna like her a lot.
She kicks ass. And like, she's just, Lauren, the actress that plays Sienna, is just amazing. And I had so much fun working with her because she went through hell for this role too, literally. It's just like, and she was just amazing. She's so easy to play off of. We had so much fun working together, and I'm so glad we had that opportunity. You guys are going to freaking love her. It's just like, and what I like about her character too, because it doesn't spoil anything, is like she's kind of cosplayer too, so she is part of this kind of group of people.
Yeah.
So she's you guys. So it's like,
yeah. And also, I mean, we just jumped into that scene with like no context or anything whatsoever. So that scene takes place about 35 minutes into the movie, and there's a reason why Sienna is so instantly afraid of Art the Clown, other than the town already knowing about his existence and whatnot. So, you know, everything will make more sense honestly when you see the movie. But
she's I like to say she's the Batman to Art's Joker. Yes.
I like it. Well, you know, spooky season is upon us. It's our favorite time of year, right? Christmas, right? But I want to know for each of you, what was that first scary movie that you saw that really just hooked you, that got you in the love for this?
I know what yours is. That's hard to say because honestly, my favorite movie of all time is Jaws, and I've been watching that since. But I mean, like, I put that in some other completely different category, you know. So there's Jaws. The Exorcist was the first movie that ever horrified me. Like, they were the slashers. I was easily conquered them. Like Jason and Freddy, they were cool. Those were my superheroes. You know what I mean? But when my mother was watching The Exorcist, you felt like there was possession going on in the house. Like I didn't want to go in her room, you know, it's a different thing. And the other movie that really blew my mind, and is still one of my favorite movies of all time, and I got to see it in the movie theaters when I was like 3 or 4, was The Lost Boys.
You still believe? Now, I was a little bit late to the game because my mom was a big chicken. She thought Fall the House Usher with Vincent Price was the scariest movie she had ever seen. But I had seen like a little bit of Poltergeist when I was a kid, when like they did a viewing at our house and stuff like that on VHS back in the day, when that was a big thing to do, viewing of VHS stuff. And I remember sneaking in and seeing the clown scene, and it freaked me out, and the TV scene freaked me out. And my mom actually used that scene to scare me as a kid, because I used to sit right in front of the TV. And she said, if you sit in front of the TV, you're gonna get sucked into the TV like a little bird. So there were years of my life where I like walked a wide berth. But that wasn't the movie that really got me in. I didn't really get into horror until my senior year of high school, and I was doing the production of The Christmas Carol, and my cast was all going out to go see Scream 2. Woo! And there was a girl in my cast I had a crush on. And like, I cannot just chicken out and not go. I gotta show up. Hey, man! So I was like, yeah, I'll go. Sure. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta be like, just doing this whole thing. I was laughing my butt off during it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I was like, what's wrong with my mama? And after that, I was like, now I gotta see Scream 1. And so I immediately went and watched Scream 1. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. Now I think like Scream's a really great way for people to get introduced to, especially slashers, because it lays out the conventions and all that kind of stuff. It kind of pokes fun. So I was like, wow, this is a great way to be introduced to. So the next year when I went to college, my roommate, who came from a very, very strict Southern Baptist family, he had never seen a boob in his entire life. And so he saw a Playboy magazine of mine. He's like, oh my God, this was a look like. So we both had very like, sheltered upbringings when it came to horror. And so we're like, we gotta make up for lost time. So every weekend we would go to the local movie gallery and just rent stacks of tapes, and we would just marathon one weekend all the Jason movies, next weekend all the Freddy movies, Mike Myers and Exorcist, Omen, all the classics. And we're like, oh my God. So we caught up on everything, and I loved it, but I never imagined in my whole entire freaking life that I would be actually one of the killers. I figured if I was ever in one of these, I would be like the Randy character that got killed off or something like that in the second movie, or something like that. I was like, I get to be the killer. This is amazing.
I love it. Speaking of which, how many of you guys were lucky enough to get the VHS of Terrifier? You guys got it? Oh. And that must have been such a thrill for you guys, and will there be more for everybody else that wants one?
That's a good. I mean, they only did limited runs of those, so I don't know. I could reach back out. Clearly, they went. I mean, people love collecting those. Awesome.
Yeah. You guys want to see more VHSs of this?
I could reach out to them.
There you go. Another sold out run. Okay, right in the front row.
Hello.
I'm just curious, how many stories do you have, and how many fucking Terrifiers you can give us?
Like Terrifiers.
I don't know, as many as you guys want. How about that?
Yeah.
When you guys are tired of it and you're just like, this isn't working anymore, then maybe it's time to check out.
Next Friday the 13th.
There you go.
I love that. Yes, sir.
So first I have to comment, tying back to you guys deciding to make art silent. I can't think of any noise scarier than him just silently laughing at people. And my question, you said you're going to bring a lot of stuff from Terrifier. Will we see anything that was introduced from All Hallows Eve, like the subway demons, or?
I can't tell you that. I can tell you this. I've said this before. Well, we've obviously established at the end of the first one that he's supernatural. And I say this all the time because all of the slashers we love eventually become supernatural for the most part, right? Unless it's Scream and there's multiple killers.
Jason can teleport.
Yeah. So it's like, why not just embrace that at this point instead of just kind of, you know, because they don't touch upon how or why they become supernatural. They just make them. It's sort of like a cop-out to a degree. I wanted to make that supernatural element like a leading character in this, which it is, which we've really hidden, and you guys have no idea what that element is. It's going to be one of the biggest surprises of this movie, which makes it pretty friggin' interesting and different. So you're going to really like that. Yeah, there's a lot. It's just bigger. It's crazier. The movie's so much different than the first one, but in a good way. I think it's. This is, I don't know. I feel like it is the closest thing we may see to like what Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was back then, like a modern version of that. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. What's up, Matt?
Hey guys. So I'm an overthinker, I guess, at times. So when I saw the teaser, I was just wondering if there's religious undertones to it, because I'm seeing like Sienna as a battle angel, and now that Art's coming back to life and he's demonic.
Are the religious
I'd say there's religious overtones.
Yeah,
Thanks,
for sure.
Look at you, you're so astute.
Yeah. I'm just seeing a battle of good and evil.
No, but it absolutely is heaven and hell, angel versus demon. And there's no doubt. And that's all layered throughout in this movie. There's a lot of, you know, mythological things in this movie, and yeah, for sure.
And again, Art with the hand torch is my shit.
The blowtorch, yeah.
Oh my god, that thing was so much fun! I love I can actually talk about that because you see that in the trailer. I got to use a freaking flamethrower. I was like a kid on set that day. I was like, I had to do this? And no one else could. Like, you want to do it again?
My screw up it takes just to be able to do it.
Oh yeah! Oh no, I didn't do that.
No, never. Of course not. Professional. All right.
I'm curious. Thank you guys so much for being here. We know it's different times.
Oh, thank you.
It's a pleasure to. If there was any concept arts, and obviously you have this background, this prosthetic body horror, which is fantastic, and you know, kind of shy away from that CGI. But my curiosity, I guess, lies is I think horror really lies on, you know, creating that image, right? And you can see it on the shirts. You guys are, you know, art is such an iconic, you know, on the lines of, I would put it as, you know, the guys that you're talking about, Freddy, Jason, Art. I mean, that image is there. And I'm curious if you always were you afraid of the mimes, the clowns, like where did that image come from? This, you know, it's such a creative, and obviously it's stapled now, but was there anything before that you had that art was something different, or it was always going to be almost this mind black and white?
No, I mean, that was pretty much out of the gate. I mean, that's like he is. What he looks like is what I started with. I think the only thing, maybe I was experimenting with his, you know, the black makeup on his face. I think I had like 3 different versions of what that could look like more sad, and like one was more pointy, you know, but I just, eventually was just like, just
that
black.
teeth always good, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I like how it's true, like I do try and create iconic imagery, and because growing up, I am an artist, I do the special effects, but I started as, I would just draw as a kid, and it's so corny, and it sounds pretentious, but it's not, but I mean, that's really the reason why his name is Art, the clown, it really is. So like I'm all about that iconic imagery, just like the things that just like stick in your mind. I mean, we tried to do. There's a couple of crazy things in the second one that I hope become like you know.
Awesome. I think you guys have been succeeded. You see many horror films now. They don't have that face of this horror. So congratulations. I mean.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we got a time for a few more. So. Who's got a really good question? We have not. Sure. Go ahead.
When I watched the sunglass, you know, scene there, it seemed like there was a lot of improv involved in that. Does he do a lot of improv for takes?
Oh, absolutely. So, like this is a perfect example. So, there's actually 2 cool things one cool thing that happened in here was when he comes up the stairs with the bag, right? And when she said, I left my bag downstairs. That was an accident because she wasn't supposed to. I mean, we started filming the scene and she didn't have her bag. And I was like, fuck, it's like a continuity error now because she had to have it in the scene that we already shot. And then Dave's like, he's like, I didn't come upstairs yet. He's like, I could just bring it up. And I was just like,
We did a lot of improvisation when we say this.
but then with the glasses, like in the script, like it says he puts on a bunch of wacky glasses, and then it says, and he honks a horn or whatever. But then I give him all these, I don't know what the glasses are gonna be. We just order a ton of like wacky glasses, and then I just give them to him, and he just goes off.
I had a blast that night. There's probably so much extra footage they have.
Yeah.
And there's another scene in the movie too where it was like he just wrote, Art does this, and he's like, okay. And we didn't know what we were going to do until we showed up on set, and I saw what I had to work with. I just kind of looked at what I had to work with. I'm like, I got a routine. I ran it by him. He's like, okay, let's shoot it, and that's what we did. And I think it's going to be hilarious and creepy scene too at the same time. And there's also like I always like to point out, there's like sometimes you have happy accidents that happen on set, and this is a great one where. And this doesn't really spoil anything, but at one point I was supposed to crash through a window. You know, your typical guy going through a window thing. And they were putting the window in, and we only had one of these, and it broke. And we're like, oh God. And so we just
It's a big window, it's a sliding door.
And we're like, oh God. And so we just put our heads together, like how we got to film this scene, what are we gonna do? And we came up with this whole entire situation that I think is just brilliant. It's something you've never seen a killer do before in one of these films. And I think you're gonna love it. And it all became, it was birthed just through a happy accident. And I think it's far superior than what we had actually intended to do. So, you never know. That's what I love about this stuff, is you just sometimes have to go with the flow.
Wow, I love that. How about right in the middle there? Yeah, yes sir.
With Stream underway, and Dave Sheridan showing us how gory that's going to be with him getting his nose picked. I was curious if you were going to stick with the gory grindhouse directing that you love, or are you going to switch it off at some point and try something new?
No, I'm probably always gonna stick to the graphic violence.
There's a lot of it in Terrifier 2. There's this one scene in particular it took about 5 days to film because there's so much gore in it. You're going to be like, you need to stop, man. This is bad.
Leave something for part 3.
And I also want to piggyback off that because you mentioned Stream. For those that don't know, we're working on another film with the Fuss and Lens guys. Mike Levy, who was the Exterminator Decapitated, who's directing another franchise. Well, we hope it's going to be a franchise called Stream, which we have a lot of horror alumni in that film as well. And some people here at this convention, like Dee Wallace and Dan Roebuck are in it. You know, Jeffrey Combs is in it. Tulsa Rose. God, so many names, and it was so cool working with these actors on set. People I grew up watching, and I'm just learning from them on the job. And you guys are gonna love this too. It's like David's doing all the practical effects for it, and so you know the kills are gonna be gnarly in that as well. So yeah, it's a little cheap plug for Stream.
And for Frightmare, who were you guys most excited to meet? Because you guys are horror fans. Like, who are you most excited to meet at the convention this time?
Oh my God! Anytime Tom Savini is walking, I turn into a 10-year-old. It's insane. He's the reason why we're literally in this room right now. Because when I discovered Screen Grades, which is his special effects VHS tape, that's what got me into the magic of filmmaking. It segued from special effects into directing. But when I saw him making the monsters, and I saw him with the Fluffy puppet and the Jason puppet, I was like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing of all time. So,
so many people. I'm like, I'm in the same room as Malcolm Dell right now. I'm like, holy crap. And Danny Trejo. I'm like, holy crap. And then Harvey was just up there. I love what we do in the shadows. I'm so happy they have brought really good comedy and mixed it with horror back. I'm like, yes, I'm dying to be on that show too. And I'm like, so I'm just like, I'm like a kid in a candy store right now, meeting all these people that I grew up watching in films. I mean, this is amazing. It's just like, like Kermit.
All right, who's got the great final question? How about the really long arm right there?
So you alluded to there being a bigger picture behind Art the Clown. Do
you foresee a plot ever branching off of that bigger picture?
Yeah, like a spin-off. I don't know. Perhaps a prequel maybe one day could be cool. Yeah, but we'll see. I have so many ideas to push the story forward if it keeps going. So.
We'd be excited. We're already ready for part 3, right? I love it. Well, you know what? This has been fantastic. I know everyone's looking forward to this. Before we give these guys a really good send-off, let's do a quick selfie with everybody in the background, and we're going to ask you guys to tag yourselves. Ready? So everybody jump in this one. Ready? Here we go. Everybody in? Maybe that. You guys are awesome. Big round of applause for these guys. Terrifier QnA.